Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Speakers Corner on peer learning as best practice to spread ATD promising practices. My name is Carolina Gottardo. I'm the Executive Director of the International Detention Coalition, and we are the biggest movement working against immigration detention, and we are the co-leads of the UN Migration Network Working Group on Alternatives to Detention, with great colleagues from UNHCR and UNICEF that are here. And this Speakers Corner is actually co-organized by the Working Group on Alternatives to Detention at the UN Migration Network, and some of our members of the Working Group are also here, and we have been working together since 2019 on this very, very important issue. But let's just start with some grounding, because these conversations are very empty without grounding. And I just want to mention a quote that I think explains very well this issue. And the quote is, "I left immigration detention, but immigration detention never left me." And this quote, you can see, is from a person affected by detention. And I think it's quite powerful in the way it illustrates the very long-lasting effects of immigration detention on individuals affected by detention. And I think you have seen some other quotes there in the videos there about the effect of immigration detention. So, and unfortunately, this quote and this case is not an isolated case. And we know from countless research and evidence that the effects of immigration detention are devastating on the health, both physical and mental, and the well-being of people that are affected by immigration detention. Another thing to say is that immigration detention is a common challenge in between refugees and migrants, and it has quite similar effects for refugees and migrants. They are also long-lasting, and they affect not only the people, the individuals, but also their families and their communities in the longer term. But the truth is that things do not have to be this way. And there are different ways forward. There are solutions. There are alternatives. And at IDC, we have been running research or doing research for quite a long time, identifying different alternatives to detention that are community-centered, that are based on case management in different parts of the world. And the benefits of these solutions are many, and they actually could be beneficial both for states and for the individual. So the first thing, and this is like very obvious, is that alternatives to detention in the community outside of detention centers are much better with human rights and with well-being outcomes for the individual. But they are also very effective, alternatives to detention. So they are effective in the way that they lead to case resolution in the community, and migrants have the support on the holistic support to resolve their cases while in the community instead of deprived of their liberty. And the other benefit of it is financial, because we have research very clearly showing the economic benefit of alternatives to detention as compared with detention, and we're talking about 80% savings with regards to, it's a fraction of the cost, having community-based alternatives to detention as compared with detention. On the positive side, we also have seen some momentum globally in terms of ending child immigration detention. And I think we need to continue building on this momentum. And we have seen some promising practices at the global level and regional and national level. So for instance, a country that comes to mind is Thailand. And when Thailand has gone ahead with regards to the Memorandum of Understanding to end child immigration detention, and this has been under a whole of government and whole of society approach, working with 7 government departments on these efforts, and then at the same time coordinated with the UN and with civil society on those joint efforts. And for instance, Mexico legislated against child immigration detention in 2020. It was outlawed. And in Colombia, child immigration detention is prohibited under law, and they have also been leaders in terms of spreading promising practice on ending child immigration detention and massive regularization programs that, of course, ensure that people are not in the community instead of in detention centers. And there are many, many more examples I could mention in different countries and in different regions across the world. The whole alternatives to detention for both migrants and refugees is also a commitment under both global compacts. So under the GCM, in paragraph objective 13, there is a commitment on working towards alternatives and ending child detention. And there is also a commitment under paragraph 60 of the GCR, highlighting this very clear kind of area of commonality. And we had in the IMRF some countries like Colombia and Thailand and Mexico and Germany that pledged specifically on this issue. And we are delighted that some countries are pledging also under the GCR this time on alternatives to detention. With regards to peer learning, it's very important that this has been a methodology that has been used because in reality, if we look, the reality is that detention continues being more the norm and alternatives to detention the exception. But what can we do so that there is a real effect on the lives of migrants and refugees? And part of the work that we have been doing in the working group is looking at peer learning as a methodology of expanding promising practices on alternatives to detention. So, for instance, the working group has organized different global peer learnings on alternatives to detention. So there have been 4 until now, between 2020 and 2023, on topics such as case management or advancing alternatives after COVID, or the issue of ending child immigration detention. And these have been under the leadership of a number of governments and like that have been sponsoring these. So Thailand, Colombia, and Portugal have been major governments that have been working with us, with the working group, on this issue. And there have been also peer learning exercises at the regional level and at national levels in the Americas, in Asia Pacific, and in the MENA region. Only this year we had the first youth global consultation on ending child immigration detention. And late next year, we're holding with the government of Colombia a breakfast meeting on increasing momentum on the issue of alternatives to detention. And then we're also looking at peer learning on alternatives to detention as part of the in transit context. So there are a lot of exciting things happening that the working group will continue working on. And I just want to finish by saying that part of the multi-stakeholder pledge that we are announcing, we are delighted to be announcing this multi-stakeholder pledge at the GRF, at this GRF. Part of this is looking at peer learning. And we are very happy that there have been a number of states signing on to the pledge, and I'm going to mention them, and I'm also going to mention the organizations that have been signing on to the pledge. And we will be announcing this in plenary as well, but it's just great to see how much momentum continues. We continue getting on this issue. So we have the states that have been signing to the multi-stakeholder pledge are Thailand, Zambia, Sao Tome, Australia, Botswana, Papua New Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and we have organizations. So, we signed to the pledge, UNICEF, the Asia Pacific Refugees Rights Network, the Justice Center Hong Kong, PILNET, the Kenya UN country team, and Wadani organizations. And I'm not mentioning some that have told us they are coming through, but they haven't come through just yet, but I'm hoping to mention that in plenary on Friday. So you will have a bigger list of organizations there. I think my timing has now come to an end, but thank you so much for supporting this and for being here with us today. And Colombia is there. And thank you to Colombia for all the efforts in backing peer learning efforts on this pledge, and I'm particularly proud because I'm Colombian. So thank you to everyone, and we look forward to seeing you in plenary, where we will announce the longer list of states. And thank you also for all the organizations and the countries that have been pledging on this, and for listening to 5 minutes that were more like 7 minutes. Anyway, thank you so much.